So we went to Beta Breakers.
I feel like we have introed multiple pods now by talking about us going on a run, but that's like the only 2 to 3 times we run in our whole life. But yeah.
No, Annika actually runs. Like me personally, genuinely the second time I've ever ran.
It's this 12K through the entire city, hence Bay to Breakers, like the ocean. So you go from like the pier to the ocean, but like people dress up, people are naked.
Like a lot of people are naked.
I got into a debate with someone over like if you'd bring your kids.
Oh, definitely not.
Wait, I would.
I literally cannot, you can't walk like more than 2 seconds without seeing another dick. Sorry, I'm just like thinking about how my mom's gonna listen to this, and I'm like she's gonna feel awkward listening to this.
No, like
no,
I
it
get
is
that,
weird.
but it's also like a cultural event.
Mm-hmm. I would prefer that they're not fully nude, but I wouldn't let that stop me from bringing my child.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like let's all
this
get
is a preference.
Naked. Yeah,
it was really fun though. I feel like I used to not want to go because I was like, yeah, you guys are just hyping it up. But then when you actually do it, it's like there's so many block parties. It just like
it's so fun.
Yeah, and
it
like
doesn't
cool
even feel like
costumes.
a race. Yeah, I walked the whole thing.
Maybe we ran a little,
like 5 minutes.
No, we definitely ran for more than 5 minutes.
Oh, really? Oh, shout out to another org in the Bay. Sponsor us, please.
Okay, no.
One starving org to another.
This is why we can't have an intern.
We could definitely put this on the pod.
Guys, we're getting
not?
an intern soon.
No,
Oh.
we're not putting that on the pod.
Are you
Maya.
kidding me, Maya?
All right. Welcome to Get the Check. I'm Maya.
I'm Annika.
I'm Priya.
And something you might have noticed is we updated our branding.
Yeah,
it's a red cover now. Red and
just
yellow.
like Airbnb, which we'll be discussing.
You might see some tweaks going forward. We do not have a designer. We just do this
Yeah,
ourselves.
if you have a designer though, send them our way.
Cool. Getting into
We can't afford them.
Okay, getting into this week. So this week we're going to be going over different launches. First, we'll talk about OpenAI and the launch of Codex. Next, we'll talk about Airbnb's new updates with their new services platform. And finally, we'll go into the launch of Uber Route Share. And then after that, we will take a detour. Maybe not a detour.
No, a literal detour.
A literal detour to the next segment, which is how Trump took a trip to the Middle East, specifically the Gulf states, and announced many investments in AI and military defense. And we're going to be discussing what happened on that trip, our thoughts, our takeaways,
Our feelings.
Yeah, there was so much to cover. Yeah, so we can start with OpenAI announcing Codex, which is basically a cloud-based software engineering agent that can work on a bunch of different tasks at the same time. So the way that it works is that each task runs in its own cloud sandbox virtual environment, which basically means that like all these different things can run in parallel, whether that's fixing bugs, looking at PRs for review, looking at for answers in your code base, whatever that may be.
Yeah, and I was listening to this interview by I think someone interviewed the head of product for this like release, and the inspiration really came around the fact that they want engineers to be able to delegate different tasks. And if you think about in the enterprise world, when you're coding, you make these like 100 to 200 line changes. They're not these huge projects that you put up like similar to what is happening in vibe coding. And so they really targeted the product experience towards something like that. They also really cared about the PR being very readable and explainable. And so the PR's descriptions are a lot more simple. They don't go into every little task. And also the code itself it produces is supposed to be cleaner. And this is all because it runs on the model called Codex 1, which is a specialized version of OpenAI's O3 reasoning model. And it's specifically optimized for software engineering tasks. And it's supposed to match like the human style of coding, which is kind of different than what like Anthropic's and Gemini's models put out right now.
Yeah, and they previously had Codex, which is what like GitHub Copilot was using, and so Codex 1 is like the next version.
Yeah, I feel like it's been covered as if it's like the first model.
I know, I was thinking that. That's why I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, it's funny because on the previous episode, when we talked about OpenAI acquiring Windsurf, I was like, OpenAI has like Codex, which is its Windsurf like competitor prior to acquisition, but no one like talks about it or uses it, and then we were talking about it.
No, it is interesting because the two things that were launched this week were Codex 1, which is like an improved version of Codex, and then Windsurf announced Sui 1, which is their own foundational model. And so like they're both announcing the same thing at the same time.
Like, you think it's the same model?
No, it's not the same model. Like, Windsurf developed their own foundational model for the first time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's fine-tuned for software engineering the same way Codex 1 is.
Yeah.
And I know people on Twitter were like, oh, is OpenAI even going to still acquire them or not? But that's a separate conversation.
Oh, I think they will. But yeah, we'll go into that later.
Okay.
So yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is that the head of product talked about this as it's clearly very different than Cursor and Windsurf. And he was saying that like in the short to medium term, you'll have like products that one are good at collaboration and then products that are like better at one shots. And so Codex kind of fits into the one shot bucket where you tell it to do something and you hope it does it well. And you're supposed to use it with this like abundance mindset where you always have the option to kick it off. So anytime you have like an on-call bug or if you're developing a feature or whatever, your first instinct should be, oh, let me ask Codex to do it. And if it doesn't do it, instead of trying to collaborate with Codex and the model underneath, instead just do it yourself. Versus like Cursor and Windsurf take a very different product approach and it's all about like collaboration and like iterative deploying and like I think it's like their future vision is supposed to be obviously an agent that does everything for you, but he kind of said that we need to start making these steps of the agent being able to completely do everything in one shot without collaboration. And so a lot of people on X are like frustrated that they can't collaborate, but it's like almost intentional by OpenAI.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in your workflow, how would you use something like Codex versus Cursor?
Dude, I'm literally trying to get access to it right now. So,
what is it, 200 a month?
It's 200 a month. Okay. It's honestly not terrible for an enterprise. Like, I'm sure that they're specifically trying to target enterprise users, but specifically of how I would use it is like, let's say an on-call bug comes in through the triage. If I could just like on a linear ticket or a Jira ticket, like kick off a Codex workflow and be like, it automatically kicks off once the ticket comes into my queue, then I can like review that code and be like, yeah, merge, or I can go and write the code myself.
And so it does all the unit tests for you.
It does all the unit tests. Yeah.
And you can see the results of that?
And you can read the unit test and you can see it'll add that unit test to the test class, the CI/CD run, it'll all pass and it'll be like, okay, here's the change that was made. Do you want to just push it through?
That's cool.
And so like the idea is that like all of your on-call triage automatically has like a Codex task like related to it as like a first option. So like that would be one way. And then I think the second way is actually for PMs, in my opinion, where like PMs are like, oh, I just like want you to make this quick copy change, or I want you to make this like quick like style change on this button.
But you don't understand. I was about to set up my entire dev setup because I was like, I feel bad asking engineers to make a copy change that I know I could do.
Exactly.
And I literally started the dev environment setup on my computer. I ran into like 2 issues on the terminal. I was like, I can't do this. I stopped.
Yeah. And so actually OpenAI PMs are doing this right now where they're literally kicking off Codex agents so that they don't have to have any sort of dev setup on their laptop. And if they can solve the issue, they'll just go and do it. So now if you need like style or copy updated, why should an engineer ever have to be in the loop for something like that?
Yeah. I was looking at the customers that they already have reported are using it, and Superhuman basically is saying their PMs are doing like lightweight code changes using Codex 1, which makes sense. And then I feel like the other way PMs or even like business people could use this going forward is they also mentioned that you can ask questions about your code base or database. And I feel like I'm more like operations and like there have been times I feel like I have a question about the code, but I don't like even know how to get to our code base or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like a complicated question per se.
Yeah.
It's just like if I could ask a chatbot and it knew everything.
Yeah. It like makes all the technical adjacent folks actually like have the ability to be more technical. Because I think a lot of like your guys' work you guys could easily do if you just had access to the resources.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah. And then I wanted to go over like what specifically the coding agent lacks. So it doesn't have a browser to validate the front end changes. It also explicitly is not able to access the internet. And it doesn't have any multimodal experiences. And the reason for this, I think, is because this is what they said in their podcast, but it was like they wanted to start off with the most simplest thing, and they were worried about safety. And so that's specifically why they turned off like the internet, for example, and why they constricted it so much, because it's purely that like one-shot agent. And so they just don't want it to go and hallucinate and do like crazy things. I don't know how much of this I believe, or maybe it's just that like
means more effort.
Yeah, they de-scoped all these abilities. Like thinking it from a PM mindset, like that's what you're gonna say, but it's also probably just like, oh, I don't have the time to like safety test this feature.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the thing that it seems most similar to me is Claude Code.
Actually, I think it's more similar. I think Codex CLI is similar, but I think it's more similar to what Devin tried to do.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because this I want to say like Codex or this isn't like a unique idea. Like many people have tried to do this. It's unclear right now based on the user feedback if it's better than Devin.
But everyone memes Devin.
Everyone does meme Devin.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, like everyone says it doesn't work.
Yeah, so it's like people think that this is like a better take on it for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To kind of recap like all the different tools out there, you have like Lovable, which is like basically like no code at all. Like you just like type a bunch of prompts and you hope it creates an app, and that's like very good for like MVPing.
Yeah, a lot of people will be like, oh, create like Tinder for clothes or like something like that. Like I feel like they try to reference like apps that already exist, like DoorDash for clothes or something, you know.
It's also like just like so fun. Like me and my friend wanted to make a prediction market. So basically there's 3 big projects that like we're shipping soon at my company, and so we're like, let's put a prediction market together where like it's like bet on the project that'll ship the fastest.
Wait, that's so funny.
And then we'll give everyone like like $100 budget or whatever. That's like fake money.
Yeah.
Or we're still trying to figure out the logistics of it, or if we could collect Venmos and stuff. But yeah, I like literally in one prompt I was able to make it. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
I'm trying to add to the office vibe right now.
Good job, Maya.
That actually would work. It's a great idea.
Yeah. We kind of talked about Cursor and Windsurf, which is like more collaborative, and then Devin, which is like basically what Codex are. Like Devin and Codex are very similar.
When you say Cursor and Windsurf are more collaborative, is the level of integration the same? Because like I don't know why, but in my head Cursor and Windsurf are like, it's like right next to your code, right? And you can like ask things, but then you can like just click like approve and it'll like go in also.
Yeah, like
it like changes your code. Then you approve it or don't approve it.
Okay, yeah. And then with Codex, is it more of like a chatbot interface? Because like, for example, like ChatGPT right now, it's not like changing your code.
Yeah, it is kind of more like you pull it up and it is a chatbot interface, and then it shows you like the previous tasks that it did, and then like whether it passed or not, and you can like create a PR from it, and then you can go and merge it.
Like the 2 places it's available from are either ChatGPT if you have it, or the API. That's where they said they're making it available today. So it's not integrating into your IDE the way Cursor or Windsurf is. It's either through ChatGPT or the API.
That makes sense.
They do have plans to integrate it like everywhere. They kind of want it to be like almost at the tip of your fingers everywhere, where we're able to just kick it off. So like it being in a Jira or linear integration, I think is something that they like said that they want to go after.
And then in terms of the Windsurf acquisition, I feel like we covered this in our last episode, but a lot of it has to do with OpenAI wanting access to data in terms of like how software engineers are responding to coding suggestions, either under their models or like competitors' models. And so I feel like they'll still need that data, whether it's like to like for training for Codex One or Windsurf's products, or like a hybrid product, right?
Yeah, like I think because their future vision is a hybrid product, they need Windsurf's version of the product to make it also work.
Like a more integrated product.
Yeah, like I think they want ChatGPT to be your assistant for all. So there's like a generic assistant that like is everything, and then it kicks off into these very specialized domain assistants.
Yeah,
like
which you already see.
Which you already see, right? And so they just want to keep fleshing that out. And like there's like one entry for it, which is like ChatGPT, or like also, and then like many entries through different products, obviously. But it's like all under the same umbrella of like this big super agent. So like, yeah, very close to AI 2027's prediction. But yeah, that's why they would need Windsurf for that reason.
I agree. I still think the acquisition will go through. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I guess it got leaked but no one has ever confirmed it. So
yeah, I mean, if people are saying that like the acquisition won't go through because they're like releasing Codex, they just probably don't know how software engineering works. Like,
on that note,
I feel like I'm gonna get slammed for that take.
No.
Is it?
You get slammed for anything on TikTok these days.
Yeah, no, literally.
No, I actually think it's like the things we think we'd get slammed for are not what we get slammed for.
Yeah, I don't even know at this point. Honestly, like getting canceled a little bit is like what makes what makes our page do better. Like,
okay, first of all, I would not at all say it was us getting canceled. I also think that if you're gonna do something like have a podcast, you have to have opinions on things.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise, there's no point in listening to it.
Yeah, no, sure.
Otherwise, you're just listening to the news.
Yeah.
And we are not trying to be the news. Like, we're trying to add something here of value.
Adding our opinions.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to Airbnb. Brian Chesky basically launched an entire rebrand of the product after many years. So now they have Airbnb experiences, they have Airbnb services.
Yeah, that's all they have for now. But he's saying that they want to be the everything app, which is, in my opinion, crazy.
Well, so the types of things that they're introducing is basically just any type of service that you would want. So it could be like getting your eyebrows started, getting a massage, a private chef, movers. And I would say that the big deviation from their core brand strategy is like their core brand is trips, right? Mm-hmm. And some of these things I can understand from a trips perspective, like a private chef, if like you want a meal cooked in your Airbnb. Although the one time Priya and I did that, we had very bad luck.
Very, very bad luck.
But actually Airbnb would have solved our problem. Some things like masseuses and stuff I could like see, because those are all the things hotels offered that hotels have been like, Airbnb doesn't offer that. Those are our amenities. I think the critical thing is they're targeting people local to the city as well, not just like travelers.
Well, I think they're just trying to expand their share of wallet of whoever is spending on the trip. Hotels always try to expand their share of wallet by having like cafes in the lobby or having like masseuses, like you said. And so they're probably just trying to go after that market, which makes sense. They probably also are trying to create more buzz because, like, similar to when they launched Icon in 2024 in Q2, Icons is like basically their celebrities experience, and it makes little to no revenue, but it had an insane effect. It had not insane, but like it had a pretty good effect on the app overall. Like it was up 25% year over year on downloads.
But do you think it was because of Icon?
Yeah, because it was attributed to that quarter. Obviously, some of it is natural growth, but a lot of it was from Icons. The one metric I did find is Icons helped expand adjusted EBITDA by 9% year over year in Q2 and 7% in Q3. Growth to your bottom line is pretty big, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, even when I heard Brian Chesky like talking about their launched Icons experience, it sounded like even the way that Airbnb itself was talking about it was more as a marketing gimmick than an actual revenue play. But I haven't looked at the numbers in the detail that you're talking about them, so I'm not sure. I mean, I guess like the core of this is basically it's basically like the services stuff, right? And like I think part of the challenge they're gonna have with this is like they basically want these professionals to have at least 10 years of experience. They're gonna certify their licenses, and like they're trying to, it almost feels like they're trying to deliver like a bougier experience than what you'd get if you just went on like Google. Because I was trying to think of like who are they competing with at
like
this
Viator
point? What?
Viator. Yeah. Which like is what everyone uses. Like I always use Viator when we go places, and like that crazy thing is they're offering the exact same experiences for like double the price.
But Viator makes sense to me because it stays within the travel niche. But when I was reading all the Airbnb rebrands, they're really not trying to stay within the travel niche. And I think like the critical thing that I see as different is they're not trying to stay within like people on a trip. Like, what do you mean? Like the way they describe it is they want like the three of us to find our next eyebrow threader on Airbnb. Like that is genuinely the vision and why they're doing it. It's like not what Viator is doing, where it's like you find your next guided hike in Bali on Viator.
But Airbnb experiences is, right?
No, yes. Like I'm not like saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm saying like their vision is so much bigger, and it's the bigger vision that doesn't make sense to me, because like even for like the guided hike, like they say in like all their releases, like we want like the people local to that city to go on Airbnb experiences too. Like they would want us to go on like an SF fortune cookie experience.
I see this almost similar to like weirdly like a bookings platform, like, you know, like a bookings platform when you book your nail salon or your eyebrow threading appointment.
Like a class pass?
Not a class pass. Like when I, like, for example, like our nail salon uses DaySmart, which is like a booking platform. And like that's kind of similar to also like OpenTable and Resi, which are also booking platforms.
Oh, I see.
And so different booking platforms have tried to aggregate this services industry. We've just never seen someone do it across different verticals. Because like normally, like you'll see very vertical specific solutions, hence the restaurants, or hence the like,
that makes sense.
Like, I don't know, like beauty services industry or med spas, or even like health and wellness, like MindBody will do a lot of like gym and like health and gym. Like,
yeah, they do everything.
Yeah, they do
like workout classes, gym classes. Yeah,
exactly.
like all of that stuff.
But it's always more bookings focused rather than like trying to marketing. Yeah, which in this case it is more like the they're going to be the customer acquisition play, not just the SaaS play. And I don't think we've seen that before. I think if anything, like something maybe kind of similar is like TaskRabbit or Fiverr, but those are all like, TaskRabbit is more like I need you to go get this thing done, and then Fiverr is also like that, except like remote, like you can do it from like wherever you want. So I do think it's like an interesting thing, and I think a huge part of why it's not an acquisition play is because like no one really wants to deal with the ops burden of that type of platform. Like for example, like when it's just like a SaaS business, like the MindBody business or like the DaySmart business, and it's just bookings, you just have to manage bookings. But then like Airbnb has to manage like what happens if a customer disputes the experience or something like that, which they like know how to manage because they do that for their normal platform, and they have the entire operations like strategy built out, similar to how like Uber has their entire strategy built out, which is why like Uber and Waymo would partner. And so I kind of see how they could help.
That is the piece that they're getting like the most pushback on, though, I would say, because people that are hosts complain about the experience a lot. Like they're really unhappy with Airbnb and how they run. And I think now that you are bringing these people like masseuses or spa, like people that can take advantage of you, I guess.
Yeah.
Hosts are really, really worried about this. Like I was deep in the Reddit threads reading about what people thought. They also auto-opted every single person into this. And so there were a lot of hosts that were like, I don't want to allow this to happen in my Airbnb, and to opt out of it. There was this really long, complicated process where you have to like call them. It wasn't easy to opt out, basically, because they don't want to make it easy.
I also feel like if I was Airbnb, I wouldn't really let hosts opt out. Like they kind of like, it's also like I could bring a masseuse to my Airbnb as is. And so like that the hosts are taking on that risk either way. It's just like more integrated into the platform now.
Yeah, I was going to say like I can see why the hosts are frustrated and why the hosts like clearly the hosts with bad experiences are going to be the ones that speak out and be like, I don't want this. And like I probably would lean on the host side here, but as it stands today, like Vrbo isn't the size of Airbnb. Like Airbnb has been able to figure out this market in a way other players haven't.
Yeah.
And so like I do kind of believe them in a way of like, oh, they would be able to manage the ops burden of it. I don't really know if they'll actually be able to make the product regardless. But yeah.
I also think that almost every marketplace that's like popular, if you go online and see what the supply side of the marketplace has to say about the marketplace, they like hate it. And that kind of makes sense because it's like there's a take rate. Like if you talk to Uber drivers, like literally I had an Uber driver I feel like
your Uber driver experience was crazy.
Insane Uber driver in Florida, but I feel like unrelated to that, she was like telling me like, oh, I'm only gonna get paid $3 for this ride. And I feel like somehow marketplaces like in certain situations can get away with that. So I totally understand why they're frustrated, but I don't think that like online frustration necessarily translates into the marketplace's revenues being hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And like I think it's worth also going into their business model here because they're using the same business model that they use for their Airbnbs, like with these services, which is basically a 15% take rate, out of which like it seems like about 80% of that 15% that they're making is just pure profit because a lot of their costs are just like SaaS costs, which are relatively low. They're just trying to increase the gross value of their marketplace because they basically just get like 80% of 15% of the total value of their marketplace.
Well, they're trying to increase their TAM is what it is, right? Which is like
to everything.
Yeah, to
including dating.
Wait, really?
Yeah. One of the things they said was that they like wanted to be the Tinder.
Oh, okay. This is one of the products that I actually believe in, which is like they're trying to find a way to connect travelers that are in the same place the way like hostels do organically.
Yeah.
And I know there's like that girl on Instagram, like Dose of Travel, like the Indian girl.
Yeah.
And she does like a lot of what?
I've seen her.
Yeah, she does like a lot of group trips and stuff. Sometimes I get the TikToks, and I think there was like another girl that did it too. And those trips are actually pretty popular. And I don't know what the business model for that will be long term, but I could see people even paying like a pro subscription to get like invited onto group trips or like, and maybe there's a dating component too. But
I think like my biggest critique is that it seems like they're expanding too broadly, too fast.
Yeah, I
like
agree.
I would say like Airbnb experiences haven't scaled that much. And so if they're going to go into services, like be a little bit more niche about the services you're offering.
Well, it kind of shows that this is like the product of a manic episode. Because did you guys read about like how it all like came to be?
No.
It was like basically Thanksgiving. And Brian Chesky, like his whole family was like meeting for Thanksgiving. And he just like stayed at home, I think in his San Francisco apartment, and like wrote like pages and pages of like writing about how Airbnb like needed to go down in history, like the Apples and like the Meta, and like how, and he said like no one can understand the pages he wrote but him. And so then he like took those pages and like translated it into like a product doc.
And that's why people are like, only a man with an ego like would come up with something like this and think it's a good idea.
Well, wasn't he literally the inspiration for Founder Mode?
Maybe. I don't know.
Like I'm pretty sure Brian Chesky was the inspiration.
Well, he said I'm going back to Founder Mode and I'm going to like, in order to get this like off the ground.
Yeah. And he's also like best friends, or he's like really good friends with Sam Altman, and was like a big and he was a big part of why Sam Altman was reinstated when he got kicked out.
Oh.
And so he like,
I didn't know this.
Yeah. And then like so, and him and Sam Altman are working on like a hardware product right now that they say will be like the next computer. I would say like Airbnb is definitely a respected tech company, but it's not like in the Hall of Fame, right?
It's not.
But I think like he
wants it to be.
Yeah, and I watched some of his other interviews, and he's like, I don't have a family. He's basically dedicated his entire life to this, and like. I think he like wants it to basically like
be one of those.
And maybe you're like, oh, this like probably won't work, but it could be like the only chance to get to that.
Yeah, it's also like he can do it. So like why not?
Yeah. Also, I was trying to think about it, and I guess like the risk to this not working out is kind of low. Because like obviously there's an amount of investment, but the way the business model is it is just like a percentage of the gross value of the marketplace, right?
So if it doesn't work
out, it's kind of like different than if like Apple launches a whole new product that doesn't work out, where like a ton of R&D has been invested, and like that's like trading off. Because I feel like their core business is probably like not on autopilot, but like pretty much on autopilot.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So like once I thought about it, at first I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I thought about it and I was like, I see what he's thinking.
I never saw it as ridiculous. Like it's a natural next step to be like, okay, like I provide lodging for a trip, therefore I'm going to provide experiences for a trip, therefore I'm going to provide all services for a trip. Like I can see the step. I think he takes it a little too far when he's like, okay, I want the eyebrow threaders to be on this app too.
He wants like the plumbers, like he wants you to get your plumber on Airbnb. But yeah, I think we're like all on the same page. It'll be interesting to see. I think like the travel related ones will get adopted, and it'll be interesting to see if like the 100x vision ones get adopted.
What I don't understand is like, if he really wanted this, like why didn't he just acquire TaskRabbit? Like TaskRabbit is a good first step for getting like the plumbers on the app.
Yeah, I think it's probably just like having to deal with the hassle. It's like what you said. Yeah, I think like the hassle of that is probably not worth it. Plus you already have a lot of like low quality on it.
I will say,
versus starting from scratch.
Like he does want like to really filter who's on it.
Yeah. And you can only
there's a whole
do
application
that.
process. I think you need 10 years of experience in your field.
And you can only do that by starting from scratch versus.
I also though like I think that that's going to go away, because I feel like the way like all marketplaces succeed is like a really low bar for quality. If you look at like Uber or something, like you cannot have like a marketplace that's taking a high take rate and then make it super hard for people to get on, because if you're like the best like nail person in SF,
you're not gonna.
Why are you giving up 50? You're not. No, you're not. You're not. 15%. Yeah. It's like the ones
like if your
that
client
don't need
you would never.
It's literally like the people that need your marketing is like who goes to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That is what you offer, is customer acquisition.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Our last launch of the week is Uber invents buses.
Yeah, they announced a route share feature, and they basically were like, it's just a fixed shuttle service where we'll pick you up at a certain time and drop you off at a certain time. And everyone was like...
And it'll be cheaper than an Uber.
Yeah. And everyone was like, okay. And it's a shared car. And everyone was like, okay, so you just invented buses. Cool.
Wait, this is so funny because I thought it's been out for a while, because I saw a TikTok of a girl being like, oh, if you haven't taken the shuttle from JFK to New York or whatever, like you're doing it wrong because it's only like $10 and it's literally empty.
Yeah, so that was like one of the things I researched, because I know people that live in New York that do take that service.
Yeah.
And they basically launched it last October. And my hypothesis is that was their like first...
That was their beta testing.
Exactly. Okay. Plus it was a route that obviously they know people need to take. But I think in the beginning it was $10 or something like that for a bus to take you from wherever you were, let's say like Times Square to JFK.
Yeah.
And apparently it was great because it was only $10.
It's $10. It's a nice car. It picks you straight up.
Yeah.
But then it's like, what's the difference between that and public transportation? I wonder what the business model is behind this, though. Like how much more revenue do they think they're going to make from this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? Because like if you're like only charging $10 a person, like you need a good amount of adoption for it to really work.
But
which is like how the public transportation works, where it's like you charge a really low fee, but you need a lot of adoption.
You have high volume.
Yeah, high volume.
Yeah.
But that's close to the price of like a normal Uber. Like an Uber from like SF to South Bay is like what, $60? So if you get like...
No, when it's cheap. Normally it's like $100.
Well, also the difference is like this isn't like SF to South Bay. Like this is SF to SF. So it's like the Marina to FiDi, for example. Like they're not doing it between like far distances. So like the cities they're doing it in are New York, SF, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, Boston, Baltimore are all the cities they're doing it in, but it's within the city. So like in the example they showed, it was a few blocks. Like it's not like... It's supposed to be a replacement to public transportation, like a commuting service.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be like SF to South Bay.
Even in the like JFK example, it's like a $10 ride, which like...
For now.
But do you think...
it was, and then they increased it.
Yeah, because I was going to say, there's no way that it's... Because like we'll pay $70 and split it between the two of us or whatever, or the three of us, to go from JFK to like the middle of the city. And so it's like you need...
I think it's 20... something.
I'm so excited to go to New York.
I think it's something like that.
I just don't know how they figure this out. I wonder if it's like, I'm sure it's like a unit economic negative play for the short term being, for sure.
It's probably negative in SF New York, but I honestly don't know how Uber pricing works in other places, because I remember when we went to Florida, everything are so cheap. And so when I think about something like that, I'm like, I do see how maybe it would work in a city like that, but I don't see how it works in a city like New York.
It's also like cannibalizing their own product like almost completely.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see, I guess.
It was a funny launch though, and it was really memed on.
Yeah.
That's like the cycle of everything though. Like I feel like the private sector just like ends up reinventing like what the public sector made. Yeah. Our second segment of today is talking about Trump's recent 4-day trip to Saudi, Qatar, and
the UAE.
Yeah. So Trump last week was in the Gulf states, and he chose the Middle East, or so it seems, to play to his ego, because they like rolled out the red carpet literally for him on this trip. It was crazy.
They forgot he said he wanted to ban all Muslims from America.
Yeah, they gifted him a plane worth $400 million. And a lot of people were like, why are we even accepting this plane? Because when you gift a plane to the Defense Department. Like, they literally have to take it apart to make sure that nothing's wrong with it and then put it back together to like audit it so that like the president can fly in it. And then Trump was just like, oh, of course I'm going to take a plane. Why the fuck would I not take a plane? And then everyone's like, you don't even understand. Like, it's going to take so long to clear that plane and so much headache. Like, don't take this plane. And I honestly don't know much about how long it would take, so I can't really make a comment on this. I just thought it was so funny because there was like so much more to the trip, but everyone's stuck on this plane, which
apparently you need congressional approval before accepting gifts from foreign powers.
Yeah.
And it's the most expensive gift ever.
Yeah.
Right? Received by a president.
But I feel like it's so funny because like everyone in politics kind of like talks about the same things just in different tones.
Yeah.
Like Trump's like, I got the most expensive gift ever from like a foreign power. And then the liberals are like, yeah, he got the most expensive gift ever from a foreign power.
Wait, and it came out today. I honestly didn't read it, but I saw it flash on my phone that apparently he asked for it.
Oh,
like this entire time, people were like, it was this huge gift. And then on my phone today, it was like, finds out that like Trump asked for this. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I just can't.
Yeah.
It's like such a Trump headline.
It is such a Trump headline. I'd prefer to talk about the other more important
Yeah, let's talk about why he was really there.
Yeah. So he like loves the Middle East in a way that's like kind of unexpected because like on one hand domestically he makes like a lot of Islamophobic comments. Like I think he said that thousands of Muslim people cheered on 9/11 and like in his last term said that they should all be registered in a database. To be fair, I feel like he's focused less on those types of comments like this term.
Yeah.
But like he's always been really close with like MBS and like the Saudis. Even like Jared Kushner is like really close with them too.
Yeah, I feel like he cares a lot more about the transactions. Like normally you see past presidents going to the Gulf states trying to preach democracy, and I feel like Trump is just all about transactions and deal making, which like makes sense for Trump's personality. I don't necessarily like agree with all of the choices he made, obviously, but as a result he did get a lot of investments done. And are those investments at, you know, like they talk about like the 600 billion or the 1.2 trillion. Will they actually be completed to those levels of numbers? Probably not.
Well, if anyone has the money, it's them.
But if anyone has the money, it's them. And I think it's all about the fact that he's trying to make sure that the Gulf states are in our pocket rather than Russia's or rather than China's pocket. Yeah. And it's just to make sure that they're allied with us. Yeah.
And he made it clear that the trip was about those types of conversations as well by bringing the people that he did. It was insane. It was like Sam Altman, Jensen Huang, everyone was there. It was like crazy.
Yeah, he brought out all the heavy hitters. And the big headline that came out of it is that the US and US companies are going to partner with the UAE to create the largest data center outside of the US that exists.
Yeah, I guess to go into all the investments that were announced from an AI and tech perspective, there was the $600 billion pledge from Saudi to the United States, which covered a bunch of different things, some of them being like a sustainable data center, more transformative technologies for companies like Google, AMD, Uber, and then also included in that $600 billion was warfighting equipment, which we'll get into afterwards. But then outside of that, there was also the $1.4 trillion AI investment from the UAE to establish like the largest AI infrastructure, as well as the US supplying the UAE with 500,000 advanced NVIDIA AI chips annually. So those were some of the like huge headline investments that were made.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about this is that Biden's approach previously was to not let NVIDIA and other chip makers sell their latest wares to the Middle East because they were worried about their link to China. And a big part of this is that the UAE and Saudi export a lot of oil to China. I think specifically the UAE in 2023 exported 10x more to China than the US. And
is
then
it just because they need more?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like I don't know too much about this topic.
I think we also just have more like energy independence. Like we've been trying to become independent from the Middle East on energy since like ever.
Yeah, and so I think the concern with this deal making is like, sure, you can create all these like economic exchange agreements and like say that there's all this investment going in and out of these companies, but it is still worrisome if the UAE is more economically dependent on China than the US, because at any point like China could also still use that as leverage.
And it's not like just China. Like the UAE and the Saudis could become our rivals in like a major conflict too. Like they have access to like the majority of the global supply of oil.
Yeah. And all of this oil is priced in US dollars, and that helps our dollar hegemony, which makes our US dollar like very strong. And they've like also talked about going towards like dirham, like at least the UAE has talked about going towards a dirham backed stable coin, which basically would allow them to sell their oil in that backed stable coin more easily, and then that would like hurt the US dollar. And it wouldn't significantly hurt the US dollar. Like I think it's like 1% or something like that it like makes a difference. But it's like, oh, what is when they're making that move?
It's like a signal of power.
Then Saudi will make that move, then Qatar will make that move, and then the US might not have dollar hegemony anymore after you have all these players going after stable coins that are not backed by the US dollar.
Yeah, and like to your point about how like Biden didn't allow this, there's basically something called the diffusion rule, which meant that Saudi Arabia and UAE were not able to purchase like our most advanced AI chips, and now they can. And I didn't realize that the Saudis and UAE had invested, like the Saudis and the Emirates had invested so much domestically in AI, but they have. The UAE since 2020 has been investing, and they have like these AI models that are called under the name Falcon, and then the Saudi Arabia's like universities have also been trying to create their own models, and they're like nowhere near our models or China's models, but they do like really want to be a player in the race.
Yeah.
And I would say this kind of like sums up the Saudis in general.
Yeah.
Since
they want to get their hands in everything.
Yeah. Like I briefly worked with them, and I would say that the best way to summarize them is they have like a lot of capital but little access, and they're trying to use their lot of capital to like buy access.
Yeah. I feel like it keeps the United States tech companies in power and in control in this situation as well, because we're providing them with these AI chips and things that they really want, but we still own the IP, we still own the production of all of these things. And so if anything, that just strengthens big tech in the United States.
I think it's like a double-edged sword, which is like what we've all said, because it's like, yeah, on one hand, like they don't need to create their own AI chips, they can use like NVIDIA's.
Yeah.
These chips that we're giving them are like really good, like they're like 30 times better than the next chip or something, but it is gonna like make their AI better.
Yeah.
And they're like,
but I feel like it's a fallback plan for us in a way, because like all the infrastructure that they're being built, like there's an expectation that the United States can use that infrastructure as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a handshake deal.
Yeah. So it makes sense.
But I think the other part of it is that this, like at least the Saudis, like they invest a lot in US big tech and also in PE. So the Riyadh's Public Investment Fund is like a huge LP in the PIF Blackstone Fund and the SoftBank Vision Fund, which then flows into like different PE investments as well as tech investments. And I think like it's also like a large part of these deals is like, we're going to give you these chips and you're going to continue to invest into our tech as well. And so it's like, I get why they're like, hey, why aren't you giving us access to these chips if we're a huge fund for you guys?
Yeah, I do think like though that the power is more balanced than Saudis like investing so much money into our companies.
Yeah.
And like we should be so thankful and give them our chips, because I would say that like a lot of times when the Saudis are investing into our companies, like US companies are deciding between like Saudis being investors versus like American firms, and like almost always want to pick like American firms. Like no one wants like the Saudis to be leading like an early round. It's like
not that they're in the VC firms, but they're in the like PE firms.
Yeah. No, like it makes sense. But I guess like what I'm trying to say is like the Saudis are also like desperate to varying degrees, they're very desperate to get into those deals as well, because like for a long time, like everyone kind of like frowned upon having them as investors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like they're like, the reason that they're giving like putting money into American companies is like not out of the goodness of their heart. It's because like that is the best access to returns. And if they invest in their own companies, they're not going to get the returns that they get when they invest in like Databricks.
No, I agree that the power is still like the lever. We still own the leverage. I just think a huge part of the story is that like as we become more dependent on that investment, we need to manage that relationship.
I agree. They also have like $2 billion into like Jared Kushner's fund or project or whatever.
Yeah.
And for some context on how China had been getting involved, and I think like part of the reason why the US feels the need to be like more involved in their economy now, is the Belt and Road Initiative, which I think you, Annika, brought up a while ago in one of our other episodes. They've given the Middle East almost like $200 billion in the last 15 years, which just develops infrastructure, trade networks, and it basically exerts influence in every way in that area, both like geopolitically and from like an economic perspective. And so the US kind of feels the need to come in and do something to combat China.
Also, it's worth noting that like the Gulf states aren't a united front. Like there's so much unrest and like conflicts between each of these like different nations. And I think he's trying to rally the wealth of those nations in conjunction with us. I think what's just really tough is the fact that a lot of these nations are tied to links with terrorist groups that have specifically attacked Americans. And that's like such a hard pill to swallow, and something that like I understand why Americans are frustrated by this.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a good transition into Syria. So the one more like political side of this that we're going to cover in terms of the trip is that the US lifted sanctions on Syria, and we had sanctions on Syria for a long time because Assad was in power and he just got like taken out of power at the beginning of this year, so like 5 months ago. And
yeah, we've had them since 1979, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like it was 1979, and then more were added in 2004, and then more were added after that in 2011. So we have a deep history with sanctions on Syria.
Yeah. Basically, Bashar al-Assad, like the TLDR, if you're not familiar with the situation, is he basically just committed like a bunch of war crimes against his people. He's responsible for the deaths of over 580,000 people during the civil war, and he also had like really brutal tactics like chemical weapons and stuff. And I feel like he like used to be like the headliner. I feel like when we were in like high school, I want to say, but like I know for
you
a
probably
while,
kept up with it more than I did.
I feel like over the last couple of years, like Israel and Palestine has been like the most talked about conflict, but for a while it was Syria, and like hundreds of thousands of Syrians were killed. And obviously there was like the whole Syrian refugee crisis that stemmed from that. But I guess like the way it becomes relevant here is because he stepped down, and the new president per se is the former leader, or is the leader of the rebel group that was like against Assad. So like it doesn't really make sense to keep the sanctions that we had, because the whole purpose of the sanctions was to bring Assad to the table. And in terms of if they even worked, it's like highly iffy, because he just started selling drugs to make revenue instead of
did he ever come to the table? Like, were we ever in negotiations with them?
No, like basically what happened was Russia had been supporting Assad a lot this whole time, and then they got super busy with Ukraine. At the same time, like the Syrian rebel groups were like getting more territory, and then a lot of the groups that, like a lot of the countries that had been supporting the rebel groups, which was like Turkey, Qatar, and the Saudis, they like ramped up their spend. So like all the different things going on in the war kind of just like tipped the scales against Assad, and he was like forced to step down.
Yeah. And I would say people are generally pretty aligned on the approach to remove these sanctions from Syria, because it does kind of throw them an economic lifeline, and in a way can help them reshape their country into like a prosperous place again, basically.
Yeah, I feel like I'm supportive of it, because I think in the past, like in certain situations, the US like will let, what's this phrase, like good be the enemy of evil or something. Obviously, the leader of Syria right now has like direct ties to terrorist organizations, and that is obviously bad. But you could look at that and be like, we're going to try to put in place like an American leader. And like, obviously, historically, that's went horribly. And so it's better to just like allow the economy to try to develop on its own.
Yeah, I understand that. I think the other thing I will say is that like with this trip and the like view on this trip in general, people are frustrated with the fact that we're willing to be more like considerate of deals with these Gulf states, especially when these Gulf states don't preach the same values of a democracy that we have in theory
in
like
country.
But I think a big thing is like women's rights. I think it's like upwards mobility. I think it's like economic freedom, and then also like the links to terrorist groups and stuff. That's something worth talking about. I think the other thing is like there's an example like for example, like part of the deal with the UAE is there's an arms deal as part of it. Like we're going to like they're going to buy some of our weapons and stuff, and senators are worried that they're arming rapid support forces in the Sudan civil war, and like all these weapons will just go towards that war. And so they like want to block this deal. And so there's like various concerns within these huge deal structures of like, hey, where is this money actually going to? And it's worth still having those conversations, because like in some ways it's good. Like a lot of this money goes back into our economy, props up jobs and stuff like that. But in other ways it's also tough because it's like supporting values that we all don't support. And I think it's like part of the entire conversation that America's having right now of like, is it our responsibility to go and preach democracy to other states? And I think it is, but yeah.
I don't know about like responsibility. I feel like it's not our responsibility to preach democracy because it's never worked. Like, I think if there's a track record of being like, oh, we made these countries democratic, it would be like, okay, that makes sense. But it's like literally never worked out for us. I do think like the distinction to me is like, there's a difference between like the Saudis and the US doing like tech deals and then doing like military weapons deals. And I know we're not going to like get deep into that part of the conversation in this podcast because we're like more covering the tech side of it. But I think like, if those weapons are going into the Sudan civil war is like really concerning versus like us building a data center in the like we're too economically like intertwined with Saudi Arabia to like cut ourselves off from the country. Otherwise we 100% would. Like I feel like if we could cut ourselves off from like dependencies on the Middle East, like if they didn't have oil, we obviously would.
But we don't.
Well, and the other thing, like going back to the sanctions with Syria, is that there's so many other like geopolitical relationships to consider, because there's also the whole like Iran situation where we're really concerned that Iran has like a nuclear weapon, for example, and Trump is like, under no circumstance can they have a nuclear weapon. And Syria was getting closer to Iran because like we were pushing them in that direction. In a sense, it was also like us not negotiating with terrorists, which is like its a whole own thing. But like by Syria now becoming closer to the United States, that is pushing them away from Iran and isolating Iran even further, which I think like are other important relationships to consider.
Yeah. And then like on the other side, part of why they think Trump didn't lift these sanctions sooner is because like Israel probably doesn't want to see them lifted, because Israel and Syria haven't normalized their relations. And also apparently Tulsi Gabbard and his cabinet is just like dead ass pro Assad, which is crazy.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And like with the Israel-Palestine thing, that was also part of this deal with the sanctions, was that if we agreed to like lift these sanctions from Syria, we basically told them that they need to establish diplomatic relations with Israel, and they also need to get rid of all the Palestinians that were in Syria.
Yeah, and designate like IRGC, which is an Iranian group, as like a terrorist group. Like there's all these strings attached.
Yeah.
But I think like what the critiques of like even like I think critiques from like Trump's own party on this are like, shouldn't you like get the concessions and then lift the sanctions versus lift the sanctions and get the concessions? But the side of it that like I come down on is like, I would also weigh like the lives of the people that live in Syria that have like been through like the worst civil war of our generation, like heavily as well. And like this is basically their only fighting chance. And even if like the new government doesn't necessarily like, to the point of the people criticizing it, I totally think it's possible like one or two of these things on this like 7-8 point list like don't get done by Syria, but like it would still be worth it to me.
That makes
So I
sense.
think it's like I would just like take that loss of like, maybe they don't designate like the group as like a terrorist group, but it's like the people like have more access to food.
I agree.
Yeah, and like to your point about like Israel relations and Palestine as well, like he basically in terms of Israel and Palestine reiterated what he's already said, which is that like the US should take over the Gaza Strip, and he released like an insane AI video like a few months ago.
Oh my God, that was fucking crazy.
The freedom zone.
And so we're not going to like go deep into Israel and Palestine on this episode, purely because we don't feel like he said anything new on the trip, versus like with Syria or like the AI chip stuff, you can see like actual movements and like deals being made. But yeah, hopefully he like changes his mind, I guess, but he probably won't.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that wraps up our episode. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for getting the check with us.
Thanks for listening to this episode. We hope you like the new branding. Please share.
5 stars.
Give us 5 stars and share our episode.
It'll make our day.
It will make our day. We're trying to work on growth hacking. It's not going well. No, it is.
Dude, Maya always says things like this. I know. Just like negative Nancy.
I'm definitely more of a pessimist than an optimist.
I know, yeah.
There was no need to say that out loud.
No, we're trying to develop our personalities on the pod.
I feel like I'm like a mirror. Like, I just am like whatever this person next to. Like, you're like a realist.
You're a realist.
/ optimist, I would even say. You're a pessimist, and I just like whatever I hear last in my head, I'm like, yeah.
That's what I am.
Like, whatever bias.
I feel like you don't do that to me. I feel like you and Maya mirror each other way more.
We definitely feed off of each other's energy.
No, I know we do that. But no, I think I feed off of your energy a lot. It's just not noticeable. Because like when you say positive things, it like gives me like hope. It's just like I don't like say anything. But versus like when Maya says something negative, I'll like say something because in the back of my head I'm like, she's right, so I say she's wrong to like convince myself.
No, you're not supposed to tell me that because now I know.
No, but like I believe what I'm saying, but at the same time it's like cope, you know? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Wow, we've gotten really vulnerable. Bye.
Bye.